concetus libani in domo Domini misericordiam tuam et veritatem Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia,
Alleluia, Alleluia, Alleluia.
Open my eyes, O Lord, that I may consider the wonders of your law.
Alleluia, Alleluia, Alleluia.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit,
Reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
glory to you, O Lord.
Herod the Tetrarch heard of all that was done by Jesus, and he was perplexed, because it was said by some that John had been raised from the dead, by some that Elijah had appeared, and by others that one of the old prophets had risen. Herod said, John I beheaded, but who is this about whom I hear such things? And he sought to see him. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
The motive for meeting a person can be very different from one case to another, and that in the case of Herod, the motive was pure curiosity. So in the case of some of the great saints, like the Crevas, or the saint of this day, St. Pio of Pietrelcina, curiosity might have been the motive force. But if that was the case, they were in for a surprise. These saints, who knew what was in the soul, did not suffer fools gladly, and they took far more seriously than some of their penitents the state of their soul. If we were to find ourselves before one of these saints who knew the state of the soul, what would we have to say and think? But the confessional is in some way an anticipation of our being placed before the eternal judge. he gives us a chance in confession to have some kind of insurance policy against this unexpected, perhaps, anticipation of the reality of eternity, which is the last judgment. And some go through life as though that didn't really enter into the equation, making of other things issues so central that there's no time to think about the issue. Some, indeed, preferring to end it all in suicide without a thought about what might be awaiting them on the other side. Some issue has been so important on this side. A big rush. Eternity can't be rushed, and it's a long time to think about a mistake. Eternity, whatever that mistake might have been. And so it is that we have confession. And Father Pio, as he would have been called by his brethren, Padre, tried to warn confessors to take very seriously their responsibility in that forum. He did not like the way that the precious blood, the merits of the precious blood, spilt at such a pain and at such a cost, should be brought to nothing by very easy confessions without anything happening as a consequence. It's not a rubber stamp. To go to confession without the intention of doing anything to change things is not the best way to handle divine grace. At least at the point of receiving absolution, there has to be that intention to avoid certain things. And one sees actually that unfortunately is not happening very soon after going to confession, and some people actually during confession itself use bad words or are uncharitable or use God's name. These things never being handled and sin not being seen for what it is. But these saints saw what it was and the damage it did. Padre Pio himself entered the Capuchins at the age of 16, and because of ill health was ordained under the canonical age. He was only 23, because his superiors did that out of kindness in the last year. But then these communications, visions, and then eventual stigmata came in, and we know what happened. But he accepted the silencing and used it well in prayer and spiritual reading. It did not stop the good, because to build that hospital place for relieving pain in the mid-50s was quite miraculous, given the poor means they had. And that has still gone on. And also, the influence of Padre Pio is huge all over the world to this day. He was fully reinstated by St. Paul VI in 1964. He never celebrated the Reformed liturgy. He died in 1968 and had permission to do things in the way he'd always done them. And I am sure that he would have been uncomfortable at some of the things that were to happen. At the time, it couldn't really be foreseen what was going to happen, but probably he would have seen something. And he would be one of those saints, had he lived, who would have warned against further abuse of grace at the very altar of sacrifice. He was aware of things, and also did not fear to say things that he knew. When discussing the question of admitting candidates to the Franciscans, he warned about not adapting the Franciscans to the candidates, but to seek and transmit the true spirit of St. Francis with all that that implied. The gifts he had were extraordinary. Bilocation, saving souls at a distance, his communication with the angels we know about, the power of the masses he celebrated we know about because of the influence they had on people who went very early before dawn to be present at a long celebration, always about 2 hours long. He would never be hurried. He would remember people at the mementos, and he is known to have made it known that there was a huge number of souls of purgatory trying to pull at his chasuble for help while he was celebrating. Of course, he would be invaded by people, and they would want to take away bits of his habit with the tiny scissors, so he had to be protected. Fra Alessio was his guardian, and he had to wake up after going back to sleep to accompany him from one place to another. And sometimes he wouldn't be in time, and Padre Pio would have to send his guardian angel, and one day he said to him that he was tired of sending his guardian angel to him. He ought to get a better alarm clock. That shows actually the communication he had with the invisible world. He wanted people to send to him their guardian angel. Also that happens in the case of the Cure of Ars. These saints have similar gifts. As it happens, I have the books of his correspondence here, because he was a great director of souls. He cared for each one. You can see the goodness in his face, a true Franciscan. But he warned about vainglory in the pious, how it disfigured their soul. He knew spiritual illnesses and got to the point like a good surgeon. Illusion, he could explode it straight away. He knew the real issues. In handling souls, we need to ask for the grace of being able to do as he did, discern wisely, give the right word, and do something that matters. It's not just enough to follow the inclinations of the soul, but to discern exactly what is going on and what forces are at work, and to say things clearly when one perceives them. It is very difficult now to find souls who can direct souls and give them good advice, partly because the priests of the world are very, very occupied, because they are fewer in number and therefore stressed, and quality time is not available for individual souls as it might be in a different situation. So souls suffer from not being cared for. It is a grace therefore to ask from the Holy Ghost, the intercession of St. Pio in particular, to know how to see and love a soul. For that soul has been redeemed by the precious blood and matters eternally. Questa festa ci colloca nell'ambiente di un santo moderno, un'anima vittima che ha sostenuto il mondo. Chi sa quante sono di questi tipi di anime nascoste nel mondo che fanno lo stesso adesso con la sofferenza assunta. Lui sapeva bene lo stato di ogni anima, non c'era illusione possibile. La grazia le chiede anche per noi di saper usare il sacramento della confessione di maniera che sia un anticipo anche del giudizio all'ultimo momento, perché se si fa una confessione sincera siamo preparati. Se un'anima non si cura se stessa con la confessione ben fatta, il rischio è tremendo. Lui era un gran accompagnatore di anime e le anime ne hanno bisogno nel nostro tempo, anime che possono seguire anime e leggerle, capirle e orientarle con il discernimento che viene dallo Spirito Santo come un dono spirituale, un carisma. Questa anima aveva tanti doni, la bilocazione, tante cose, la comunicazione con il mondo angelico. Questa era una realtà invisibile per noi ma visibile per loro in un senso. Credevano e toccavano. Chiediamo questa grazia per San Pio di Pietrelcina di essere anime veramente in contatto con la realtà invisibile che ci circonda intimamente, angeli e presenze, Dio in mezzo c'è. Make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring your love. Where there is injury, your pardon, Lord. And where there's doubt, true faith in you. Make me a channel of your peace. Where there's despair in life, let me bring hope. Where there is darkness, only light, and where there's sadness, ever joy. Almost a road that I may never see, so much to be concerned as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. Make me a channel of your peace. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned, in giving to all men that we receive, and